All right. Welcome, everybody. Today's Hangout on Air is featuring Google Classroom, and I posted the link to this Hangout in the event page, and I'm going to start with a little bit of Hangout on Air advice for you folks. If you set an event as being an online event, that's different from setting a Hangout on Air at a later date. So if you want to have a Hangout on Air with a few panelists and know who they are in advance and manage that, you want to set a Hangout on Air and give it a date and a time. If you want an event that's online where anyone can just join the Hangout, you do that on the event page. So that's my sidebar to get started with today. We're here talking about Classroom. I want to introduce the panelists that we have here, starting with, I'll just go from left to right. We're very fortunate to have Andrew Stillman here to talk to us today. He's a 10-year veteran of the New York City Public Schools and a senior systems developer at New Visions for public schools in New York City. He's also a science educator and an admin, having founded an urban STEM school, and he's most famous in our Google community as being a top contributor of innovation, providing the most popular free add-ons, once called scripts, to Google apps such as Puss and Rubric. And I'm delighted with all of the advancements that Andrew has put into Puss, and I find it to be a great complementary tool for Google Classroom. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about what Andrew's been up to with that today. We also have Ben here. Ben sings the praises of Classroom worldwide. He is in the UK, a math teacher who became a Google certified teacher in 2013. He's also a Google education trainer, has a master's in leading innovation and change in education. He's taught over a decade and now leads technology for learning at his GAF school. Most recently, Ben has presented Google Classroom, as well as Classroom with Puss at the Prague, Rome, and Stockholm AppsEvents summits this past fall. So that's pretty exciting. Thanks, Ben, for coming and being here. And very, very exciting, we have students here that are going to talk to us about how they feel about Google Classroom. They come to us with Jennifer Sheffer, who is an instructional technology specialist and mobile learning coach for Burlington Public Schools. Burlington Public Schools, by the way, is a one-to-one iPad school and a GAF district, which is very interesting. She leads Burlington's globally recognized student-run help desk program, which she also featured at a recent Google Summit. She's Google certified educator and the Massachusetts Google Educator Group leader. She has a master's degree in educational administration and has spent the past 12 years as a business management and marketing teacher here in New Hampshire before going off to Burlington. And she has presented on Google Apps on several occasions outside of her district. And I'm delighted to meet what I call the help desk for Classroom, Ziggy. If you go into the Google forum, he is the help desk for Google Classroom. He's the go-to guy, and so we're lucky to have Ziggy here with us today. He didn't give me a bio, so I'm going to give you a moment to just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. So I'm Ziggy. I'm a top contributor for a lot of product forums, specifically Docs, the Google Apps for Education forum, which encompasses the Classroom product, and Hangouts. I'm also involved with the Nexusware and Google Drive forums as well, and I help out on those forums as well. Outside of the forums, I'm a college student studying computer science. And I think that's about it.
Well, it's nice to put a face with the name now. Thanks for coming. All right. So, Jen, are you still there with us? I just saw your video fade.
We're there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We are here, but we're actually going to relocate into a quieter space. One of the sessions was just adjourned, and it's quite loud where we were, so we're going to try to find an alternate space that's more quiet.
Okay.
And
we'll come back
quite busy in the fall. Yeah.
Okay.
We're almost ready.
All right. Well, there's Jen for now. Ben, why don't you share with us a little bit of your background using the Classroom? I know you've been presenting on it quite a bit, and really the focus of this conversation is about what's good about Google Classroom. We have, Jen and I were talking a while back and coming across a lot of mystery behind what you can and cannot do with Classroom, and want to support the teachers and educators out there who are trying to unravel the mystery behind Classroom. Do you have anything that you can just kind of start in on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just wanting to check, can everyone hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. Yeah, so I mean, our situation is that we're a public school in the UK, so we don't necessarily have money sloshing around. When we introduced Google Apps for Education, initially a lot of the teachers were using, they were creating a file or a folder, sharing that with people. Now, a few of the teachers discovered wonderful tools like G-Class folders that Andrew created and his team, and there's also Puss and those sort of things. But not everyone was comfortable with sort of getting involved with all of that. So when Classroom came along, the biggest win for our school was that it just did the sharing and permissions in Google Drive in a simple and effective way, so that when teachers set up courses and shared resources, the students could get them easily. So a nice simple way that it's really sort of helped out a lot of people who were already trying to share and collaborate with Google Drive. For myself, one of the things that surprised me about where it really had impact was the comment bit below tasks that I'd assigned. So my A-level group, which are 16, 17-year-olds who've sort of chosen to study mathematics further, I'm setting their homeworks on Classroom, and they're progressing each other further through that homework, and they're being more successful with the homework because of the comments. Essentially the social media aspect to it in that controlled environment where they can say, well, this video helped me, and did you try this, and has anyone got any advice for question 3? So that's been one of the really big wins for me in my classroom.
That's great. My question for you on that point is, are you referring to the annotating when you submit something, or the announcement stream?
The announcement stream. Yeah, so that's been really quite a revelation in terms of the way the students have helped each other out using that.
Have you had to take advantage of the ability to mute or change the settings, the new development in Classroom, to be able to do that? Have you used that tool at all?
I have with my younger classes. I tend to restrict them so they can only comment on things that I've posted rather than posting liberally. With my older students, it's not being an issue at all. They've got plenty of ways to interact with each other. So they don't really use Classroom for anything other than the academic side of things. So I've not really worried too much about it.
Yeah, I understand that, and most of us are working in a smaller group setting. I'm going to do a quick screen share just to show people what to. Oops, here we go. Classroom is right here, and what we were talking about is I'm logged in as a student, and in the comment stream, your settings, your ability. Let's go in the stream. Your ability to comment is based on how the teacher has set it up. And I'll give you a quick look at the teacher view. Here's the classroom. And then if you go to students, you have the ability to select whether or not students can post and comment. Students can only comment, or only the teacher can post or comment. So this was a feature that teachers had asked for by using that excellent feedback button in the bottom right-hand corner, asking for certain things that weren't available. And this was one of the developments. So now if you only want to use the comment stream as a way to just talk to your class and not get any feedback, you can do that. And what Ben was referring to is that he has his set so that they can post and comment and have that conversation, and that social media aspect in class kids be motivated. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been my big win on those ones. So thank you for the demo.
All right, yeah, sure. Jennifer, I see you're back.
We are. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. I want to hear from the kids. I'm dying to hear from the students.
I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay.
Hey, I'm a junior at Burlington High School. This is my first year in help desk. That's basically.
My name is Timmy Sullivan. I'm also a junior at Burlington High. This is also my first year at help desk, and I'm very excited to use all of the Google Apps, especially Classroom.
My name is Mira. I'm a senior at Burlington High School, and this is my second year doing help desk. I love Google Classroom. I think it's helped me so much, as well as made life life easier for the teachers as well as the students. So.
And what's great, Allison, is I'm using Classroom with my help desk students in Burlington, and they are essentially sharing most of their blog posts with me via Classroom. So it's just a one-click, and then it allows me to quickly access their blog posts, and you know, most of those are being cross-posted onto the help desk blog. So they're able to collaborate with the global audience, and Classroom for them and for me has just streamlined the entire process, and it's just made us more efficient. And because they're using iPads, any type of product that they create with the iPad can be sent to me seamlessly through Classroom. And working with teachers, students have actually been working with teachers throughout the high school, and they're getting on and using Classroom within minutes. And that's increasing their confidence and their motivation to use other technology tools. So it's been really exciting to see the quick adoption of the tool.
And Jennifer actually sold me a little bit more on the iPad because I'm not a big fan. And I watched one of her presentations, and she had a Classroom. Jen, can you mute yourself just for a minute? She demoed how Classroom and the iPad work so well together, and I thought, aha, now that Classroom's here, I can see how it can make using Google tools on an iPad a lot easier, and even allow you to integrate the other tools into your Google domain, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I think, like I said, that's why so many teachers have gravitated towards Classroom. Some of the foundational iPad apps that we use include Explain Everything and Notability, and you guys can jump in at any time with iMovie.
Yeah.
Whatever they create, they can just simply share it with their teacher. And they had a strong foundational knowledge of Google Drive prior to the introduction of Classroom, so they're able to take that knowledge of Drive and their understanding of sharing settings and continue to use that. I think we've had conversations about this, and I heard you speak in Arkansas at the AppsEvents that Classroom hasn't really replaced anything. Students are still using Drive, and they're still using many different tools. It's just become a hub and a central place for that workflow to happen quicker. So the whole less teching and more teaching slogan really resonates with me and a lot of other educators because it just kind of gets the technology out of the way and lets you focus on what's most important, and that's communicating with your students and distributing assignments and then collecting assignments.
If anyone wants to jump in and comment on anything, feel free. You're not being rude. Ben, yeah. Oh, Ben, of course, you raise your hand. That is so Ben.
Yeah,
he's so polite, super, super polite.
Well, I do demonstrate good British values, I think. Yeah.
You do.
So in terms of the classroom, Jen was talking about how it kind of is that workflow. It's interesting. A couple of my students are really keen to teach other students Python and a few other programming languages. And after various little discussions, they've started their own classroom, which we're going to open up to other students in the school, so the students can go in and learn Python from the students. So it's interesting how initially, obviously, it sits on top of Drive and does some nice little sharing, but as people are getting more used to it, they seem to realize it is a nice place to just put everything, have a central place where people can learn from each other. So I'm quite excited about those students getting their Python classroom up and running, because it's not quite exactly as it was intended for Classroom. It just shows what happens when some enthusiastic students get their hands on these tools.
And that actually brings up the point, a very important point, I think, is that it's not, Classroom has a lot of hidden features. It's not necessarily what the product came equipped with to do for you, it's what you can do with the product. And if you look at the interface and all of the Google tools and opportunities to use these tools in education, the Classroom really does serve as an excellent hub and a way to organize and streamline everything so that you can use those tools the most efficiently. And I think that what I've heard a lot is folks looking for more in Classroom, not necessarily taking advantage of everything that currently exists. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Well, definitely going back to what Ben was just saying, with his students using Classroom for Python, Mira and I right now are looking into learning Swift, which is Apple's new programming language. We're teaching ourselves that. We're going through a lot of different methods to do so, and we're collaborating on different apps. We're trying to publish ourselves into the App Store because it's a fun and exciting experience, and it's educational, and it teaches us critical thinking skills, and it's just something that we should do. And what Classroom offers us is the availability to collaborate and stay connected constantly when we're not with each other, because we can't always be together. So we're not going to read the same pieces of information, we're not going to access the same sources, and we're not going to be programming together. So if we hit this breakthrough, we find something amazing and we need to share it with each other, we can use Classroom to collaborate. We can post it and we can use that to really further our own understanding and then further our understanding together. So it's really a great place for us to sort of build together when we can't be together.
Maybe I'll jump in. I think, Allison, to your point about some of the sense that Classroom is limited, I think it's really important to remember that it's Google's probably greatest strength is in designing minimalist products that are really intuitive for folks to use. So that doesn't come without trade-offs. Like it provides a really elegant entry point for a lot of folks who might have found the workflow of working in Drive too much. And I think that should be stated as probably the most important thing for all of us, because what it means is many more kids able to do their writing in Drive and have all the tremendous advantages of a cloud-based word processor, which just makes a huge difference if you think about the way we teach writing. So I think the fact that it's going to bring millions more students into that kind of experience is amazing. I do think, though, that it's an entry point, and there's a lot more sort of interesting tools in the ecosystem that can be used along with it. Obviously, there's Drive apps, there's Chrome apps, there's Chrome extensions. It's the number of different app ecosystems that Google is making available is almost overwhelming. But it's been a kind of an interesting journey for me because I've been working on many of the similar workflow problems, albeit as a lone nonprofit software developer, which I even hesitate to call myself because I'm formerly a teacher. But however inelegant some of the stuff that I've built is, it's still managing to get a lot of use, and a lot of folks are playing with it alongside Classroom, which is generating a ton of really interesting conversation. I think it's in some cases it's pushing the Classroom team, in some cases it's pushing me to really have to dig in and figure out how to make these tools all work together. But I don't know if you want to hear about some of the stuff that I have that
yes.
Some of the use cases. Okay, so
yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to grab the mic, but I mean, I think there are a couple of places or pain points, I guess you could call them, in Classroom that folks are then figuring out ways to work around. One of them is obviously group projects, right? And I think there's some really interesting ways to do group projects with just using Classroom. But Doctopus has some functionality that's very similar to Classroom in certain respects. It's got a slightly different model, but I just wanted to pull up a screen share here to show off a little bit. One of the ways that you can use Doctopus is to produce what are called rosters. And this is where there's a little bit of redundancy to Classroom because Classroom has its own roster, right? And this would mean having a separate roster. So I don't normally recommend necessarily for you Classroom users to build full-fledged Octopus rosters. But if you do, you get some interesting stuff. You get class folders that Doctopus will deliver to. And you as a teacher actually own these. So I think, Allison, you mentioned that you have students take their Doctopus folders and actually move them into their classroom folders. Is that right?
Right. There's two instances. One is I might not even push out the folders for using Doctopus in the classroom because there may just be a need where suddenly I want to do a group document. We're doing a collaboration. So I'll use Doctopus and set it up and just push it out and just send the doc out. And then I realized by creating the folders and having those available too, it's just a matter of having them go to incoming and then dropping it into their classroom folder. So then they could just get used to you telling them, hey, this is where you're going to find, you know, this product throughout the year. You have all year to work with them. I don't think it's a big stray at all.
Yeah, I think for folks that are comfortable with Drive, it's definitely not a stretch. And the advantage would be, once you pick the roster, you can see the folder keys come in. It's gonna do all the delivery to student folders in a very similar way as Classroom. But that added piece around group projects is really where this shines. And who knows, maybe Classroom will add this feature set. But you'll see, Classroom normally gives you just this individual all the same option where every kid gets a copy of the same document as a starter document. What Doctopus will do in addition is that you could do differentiated assignments, so you could group kids into different levels or task areas. But you can also do project groups where instead of an individual copy per kid, you're getting an individual copy per project group. The other thing you get is you get a fair amount of flexibility in how things are shared. So you could go ahead and do like annotated comments instead of having the kids actually write an essay. You could have them comment to primary source or something, right? So you have a lot of flexibility there. Otherwise, it's very similar. You choose a file or a folder from Drive, and then it just distributes it out to the kids. So for folks who are wanting project group functionality, this is a way to get it. There's some other cool stuff.
I want to say something else about that as well.
Yeah, please.
Sorry. Just on that project note, I've seen discussions about how it doesn't work. They can't pass it in. And I just wanted to give folks who are using Classroom, who want to use the Doctopus for group work, a tip that all you need to do is have each student pass in their group document as a link. Not if they're not the owner of the doc and they go to submit it in Classroom, it'll tell them, oops, you're not the owner of the doc, please, pass something in you're the owner of or get ownership. But all they need to do is just, because it's shared between everyone, they just need to pass it in as a link, and everybody can pass in their own document, even though 3 students are actually submitting the same doc. I just wanted to let them know that was possible.
Another suggestion would be is that you can also make a copy, each person can make a copy of the group document and each submit their own individual copy that way. It's another way of doing the same thing if you'd rather have each individual student turn in something as opposed to a link.
Right, exactly. So you just have to kind of sometimes just think a little bit outside the box instead of just thinking it can't be done. There's lots of options.
I mean, the other interesting workaround that folks are tending to go to Doctopus for is rubric-based grading. Like I know that Classroom has provided a grading widget, but it's, I think, still limited to letter grades and number grades, correct?
So yes,
that's true.
So right now, you can. One of the big misconceptions right now is you can't customize the grades. It may not be obvious, but you can change the grade in the top right-hand corner. It comes with like a certain drop-down of values, but if you backspace and type in whatever value you want and hit enter, it'll stay as that. So if you wanted to make an assignment worth 37 points, you can just backspace out the value and type in 37, enter, and you get that value. That's what the assignment's worth. A lot of people don't seem to know that or think it's not changeable. And there was at one point, I think, a small bug that happened for like a day where it wasn't like saving or whatever, but that is a feature that you can change the assignment value worth.
So that's true. I think the bigger issue though is if you wanted to apply a rubric that has descriptors in it, and actually have students see what the descriptors mean about their work, which in my experience is a pretty common thing for teachers to want to use. There is a way to do rubric-based assessment if you ingest the classroom assignment. So this is just in step one, instead of picking a roster, you would actually go, and if you have Classroom, you'll see your classroom classes listed here, and then you can pull an assignment in. So you'll see this is working the other way. This is an assignment that was distributed using Google Classroom, not Octopus. But it's allowing me to actually pull those files right into my spreadsheet. And this is the way Octopus runs out of Google Sheets. But then once that's there, you'll see you have the ability to attach a rubric, which is a really simple thing. You just build it in a spreadsheet and takes the same format as like a standard grid style rubric. But once you've done this, you'll actually have a Chrome extension at the top of each doc. And I don't want to belabor this, but you'll see this little eyeball here. And essentially when you pull up the rubric, which I didn't associate, you'll actually get a rubric overlay right here. And when you paste that rubric, or when you submit that rubric, it'll paste the scores right into the paper. So a lot of folks are doing that. We're getting, I think, something on the order of 5,000 users a month are choosing to ingest their classroom assignments through Octopus. So it seems to be popular with folks, and I've heard a lot of folks say just how simple it is. It's like a 2-click process, and then you're grading with rubrics.
Can I, Andrew? Can I ask about? Is there a point in the future? My technical understanding is limited, so forgive me if I say something daft. But when the API is made available, is it possible that something like you've done with Octopus and Rubric would end up being a part of your classroom experience?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, right now what I've done is the best I can in the absence of an API. I think time will tell what the API is actually able to expose, because I think Google's going to have to be very careful about what kind of information is available through the API. So we'll see. I mean, everything I'm doing is surreptitiously stripping the identity of students off of their drive files, which you can do with current APIs, but and it's not always perfect, but it seems to work.
Because it's definitely I've found working with Classroom myself and working with the teachers at my school that it's the grading which seems to be the bit that bothers them more than anything else. So they like the workflow, they like the sharing, they like the collaboration. There's obviously the ability to groups and have more than one teacher is something that's been talked about a lot, and I think, Ziggy, you've responded to numerous sort of questions about those kind of things. But the formative assessment aspect is a very big thing in the UK and everywhere really. So the option to have a slightly more formative assessment. So for myself, it's most pieces of work my students submit, I grade them on a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 being, why have you insulted me by handing this in? And 4 being, wow, that's better than I ever could imagine you producing. So, there's a lot of 2s and 3s, but that's the kind of grading structure that I have for most pieces of work, and to be able to kind of replicate that is something that would, is nice.
Yeah, I also think about all the electronic gradebook providers, and there's so many different platforms that teachers are asked to use. And so having to grade things in multiple places or keep track of grades in multiple places is always a pain point. And so imagine if an API allowed all these different gradebook providers to provide a Classroom plugin. It'd be amazing, right?
That would help.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna chime in here because currently, I mean, throughout since the beginning of electronic grading, teachers have been having to grade in a variety of different places and put it into a final grade book. And I feel that Classroom does not hinder that process at all by not having that plugin. Yes, in an ideal world, wouldn't it be nice if we had everything we wanted so we didn't have to do extra work to get anything done? But we don't live in a world like that, and we tell our students that they have to put forth extra effort to do X, Y, and Z. We expect them to go into Google Drive and look in incoming and move folders around, which may be outside their comfort level, or they may consider to be more time-consuming. They want it fed to them on a silver platter. They don't want to have to do all that extra work. And sometimes I feel as educators we're very demanding about the littlest things that are not as important as the all-powerful ability to provide that instant formative assessment, the instant feedback by getting right in those docs and letting third graders know while they're typing down their first thoughts on a writing prompt that they're doing a great job, or, hey, didn't you say you liked that? It's those powerful moments that I watch that Classroom has made something like grading not as significant to me as a teacher. Not to discredit that anything you just said, but I just wanted to point that out.
So, it sounds like you're reminding us to be thankful. I want to invite you to our Thanksgiving next year. So
well, you know,
you're absolutely
Pollyanna.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm as a technologist, I'm imagining a future state. I'm not regretting the current state. So yeah, I mean, I just think Google has a history of doing really open APIs on all of their products, and so I think the chances are very good that we'll have even more to be thankful for in the future. How's that as a positive way to frame it?
No, I like it. I'd like to have the conversations because sometimes I feel like some of the things that we go down these rabbit holes on are not the most important pieces. And I just want to share this story about Classroom. This year I spent some time up north in a tiny school in Bartlett, New Hampshire. And I was there for a week, and one of the key highlights of my week was that the 3rd and 4th grade team hadn't really been using Google Drive as much with the kids because they couldn't, because of the sharing, because of the confusion and the obstacles to getting access to the docs. And I went into the school building in the morning, spent about 15 minutes with the teachers. They set up their classroom and put in the assignment, and they left. And I went into the classroom a couple hours later, and the students logged in, joined Classroom, and were in the doc within 10 minutes, these 3rd and 4th graders. While they were working on their writing, I had the teacher go into Classroom and open up all the docs and start chatting comments in and giving suggestions. And I wish I could bottle up the amazement and the energy that those kids and even the teachers were feeling at that moment, because it suddenly was so easy for them to be connected that way. And the kids were excited, they were typing and writing more, and they paused for PE. They said, okay, you got to flip your lids down, you're heading off to PE. And we all know that the kid, if you ask a child what's your favorite subject in school, it's lunch, recess, and PE. And so as they're heading out the door, they're saying, are we going to do this when we get back? Are we going to do this when we get back? And I said, are you going to type in the doc? Yeah. I said, why? Is it fun? Oh, yeah. And that to me was just a phenomenal moment, because that just doesn't happen in education.
Well, awesome. And on that point, Allison, that you were just making, Google Classroom is so organized that you don't have to waste time with students telling them to find this and find that. You learn, because it's all right there in a perfect structured timeline that the teacher can organize and set up for the students. You can all collaborate in one place, so everyone's working together as opposed to working separately and hiding behind their own little layers. And Andrew, like you said earlier, some people get overwhelmed by Google Drive. Like, there's so many folders and documents and options, where with Classroom it's so direct. Here's your assignment, here's where you turn it in. You can work on it right here. The teacher's providing the document for you Most of the times the teacher will give us an assignment, and it will be attached to the post in Classroom, and we can just work on it right there and then turn it in. They can see what we're doing. So a lot of the times if one of my teachers is absent, they'll post something on Classroom. We can all just easily log in. We're right there. And they can see us working as she or he isn't there. They can see where we're making mistakes. They can comment back to us. And it's just all shared so seamlessly that it seems as though there's no confusion between anyone. You're just simply working and you're learning, which is how it should be.
Also, we've had the iPads for about 4 years now, and we've gotten the hang of Google Drive. Classroom, we just had it this year, and we've gotten the hang of that too. And now we actually use Drive and Google Docs to collaborate without the teachers assigning something to us. So me and Timmy are actually, we're in the same physics lab group as well as with 2 other people. And sometimes usually we'll create a doc, or one of us will create a doc and share it with everyone else. And we'll just jot down points, like important things that he says in class that we feel like will maybe be on the test or the quiz or something. And he doesn't tell us to do any of this. We do this on our own because we can each collaborate on it if we feel like we want to correct someone on something so they don't get it wrong on the test or something like that. It just works perfectly.
It's made it so efficient for students to collaborate together because it's all right there in front of them that basically anyone can do this. It's such an easy experience for students to learn and collaborate with what they're learning that it's really a resource for everyone in the school, no matter what you do, what subject you're learning. Every single one of my teachers uses Classroom, and it has expedited the homework process because you receive the homework, you complete it, and you turn it in all in one spot. So there's no downloading it and then filling it out and then turning it in here and emailing and spam from a bunch of students. It's all seamless.
What's exciting to me too is to see the commitment from Google to listen to our feedback as educators. And we had 11 engineers from the Cambridge office of Google visit Burlington. They spent the day in our district visiting in classrooms and talking with teachers and students extensively about what they can do to improve their products and make the teaching and learning experience more effective and more efficient. And that's just a testament to the commitment of the company, of Google. And once again the other day I was in Classroom and I realized I want to be able to do XYZ. I can't remember the exact thing, but I clicked on the question mark and sent the feedback, and they took the screenshot. And I am optimistic that they're going to continue to roll out new features. But I think Andrew mentioned it earlier about the design of it, the simplicity of the design, I think is what the students find the most appealing. Many of them have appreciate all of the teachers using Classroom more so than other types of platforms because of its clean and simple design and their ability to quickly access the assignment and the due date. And we've actually been using it, I've been using it with Mira and Timmy and some of the other students for the TED Ed Club that we use, or that I run, and many clubs and organizations now are starting to use Classroom for a communication platform and to send out documents and other materials that students need. So there's a lot of creative uses. I agree with Allison that people focus sometimes on what it can't do, but if you think creatively about what it can do, there's a lot of possibilities that people should be open to. And Jaimin had a question. Andrew, when you were doing your screen share of Dr. Puss, the students were very fascinated, and they, I think, are going to go back to Burlington and start exploring Dr. Puss. I think you sparked a lot of curiosity within them. Did you have a question?
Yeah, when it comes to Dr. Puss, when you send in your work to your teacher or whoever it may be, is there a way for a teacher to mark up what you send to your teacher? Because for me, it's really important to see my feedback, what I did to improve myself. So is there a way you can get?
Yeah, Dr. Puss is actually meant for the teacher to run, and then essentially you get the documents delivered to you. So it's similar to Classroom in that way. There's actually no way to turn things into Dr. Puss. So it's definitely not as robust, and it doesn't have a student-facing web interface. So it's usually the teacher who runs it, and then the teacher owns the doc, and then you're doing the writing in the doc. The teacher has full access to it. There is a way that they can embargo the document, so in a sense they can enforce a deadline. But throughout that process, you always have full visibility on the doc. Is your question like about comments? I know there sometimes when classroom documents are turned in, you just become a viewer. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically for the most part.
So is that the nature of your question? You're curious about whether it allows you to see the comments on the paper?
Right, and then can they edit while we're doing whatever we're doing? Is it directly shared so they can see what we're doing inside of the document? So
yeah, it's a different ownership model. So the teacher always owns the doc until the very, very end, in which case they can transfer the document ownership to you. So it's a different approach. It says the teacher owns and controls the docs completely, which I would think as a student I would actually like less probably. But teachers like it because it means that they can always go in, and if they need to change the assignment, they can add things to the student docs. It's a different approach. Classroom puts the ownership on the student until they turn it in, and then the teacher owns it while it's turned in. So there are interesting conversations to be had about which is a better way to go. But I'll leave it at that. I mean, I actually give Google a lot of credit for having studied the situation and made some of the careful choices they made, because I think they actually wanted to make sure students felt a sense of ownership in the design of the product, which I think is actually a really interesting. Most ed tech companies would not have given students as much control. So I would give them a lot of credit for making the choices they made.
Well, on that note, Andrew, what I think is great, the opportunity that we have being in a one-to-one community, we have our iPads, is the amount of control that the students have with how they're learning and to an extent what they're learning, because of the ability to further your knowledge. So just noticing that, you said that Google gives the power to students, and you don't know if that's necessarily the best way to go about doing that. I would argue that our school, our help desk, our community shows that the more students engage themselves in their projects and the freedom that they have to create to further their learning on their own independently, all of the access that they have to worldly resources and all the feedback they're getting from people everywhere proves that when students have some control over their education, they're more motivated to go further with it. They're more interested in their subject area. They're more eager to get their work done, maybe even do some more work because of the opportunity that they have that isn't necessarily in the traditional education model.
If I can come in on that, that's a great point. I feel that I'm being challenged as a teacher now because students are accessing videos, whether it be videos I share with them for homework or just that they are getting themselves. So I'm coming to lessons, and if I'm sort of approaching it in a traditional way, I'm finding that I'm trying to teach kids stuff that they actually might already know or have made some progress on. So it's been a great challenge to me to let go of that traditional model and start to be more open and receptive to how can I find out where you're at and how can I progress you even further. So Classroom has been quite good for that because if I just do a share actually, some of the maybe slightly different tasks that I've been using in Classroom, see if this one will work all right. So I set a drawing as an assignment to one of my classes. Prior to a lesson, the deadline was 2 days before the lesson, so I could get a sense of, well, what do I need to teach in this lesson? And that was where I found that it was changing the way I was doing it, because I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that document?
Yep, we can. Yep, we can see it.
That was the assignment. It made a copy for every student, and they had to place the shapes in the appropriate place. What it meant for me was I could arrive at the next lesson with, and I was planning based on what they'd done in that document, so I knew where their misconceptions were, and it was a case of personalizing tasks based on the work they'd done. So one of the big changes is the fact that I was no longer saying, right, today you're going to do what I think you should do. It was, I've seen your work, and this is how I think we can progress a bit further. So I found that really quite exciting.
I want to hear from Ziggy.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. You guys brought up a couple of things that I actually wanted to talk about. One of which was sort of, I guess, I can't speak to the future development efforts of Google, but partially because I don't know them all, and second because of my NDA. But probably something that was brought up a lot was the thought and consideration for things. Kind of two threads on that. One, kind of result of the API questions. This also has to do with a lot of people have been asking for parent access, as well as discussions of what else? Anything basically having to do with information going between domains, outside of the domain. We run into a lot of things, specifically FERPA, and things where Google needs to be aware of. If we take it outside of the domain, if the information leaves the domain, it's kind of a security thing that they need to make sure that there's no possible way that data can get out, because this, there's no reason why, both at a high school level, an elementary school level, college level, because this is being used not only by public schools or from K through 12 standpoint, this is being used in colleges, universities too. So from a purpose standpoint, all that information needs to stay in-house, and the easiest way you can do that.
Nobody needs a parent portal. Parent portals are needed. Parent portal because they're not needed. They can log in with their students' accounts, and Google shouldn't even consider it as a challenge. That's my whole.
I mean, we're still getting feedback on it, so the team's going to listen to it, but I think it's safe to say that it's at least not going to be a top priority at this point. I think there are bigger priorities, one of which I think, at least from the gist I've gotten, is definitely and doing research into having co-teaching, teaching assistants, having multiple people in the role of basically administrator on a class. So instead of just saying, okay, we're just going to share the permissions, they're taking time to do case studies, talking to people in the schools, figuring out what typically a co-teacher, what their roles would be, what permissions they would need to have, what control they should have over the classroom, the assignments, from a college standpoint, how does grading work with TA assignments? What kind of structures are there, and how can we make it flexible enough so that we implement a solution that will work for everybody and doesn't, make it harder to do what you could have done before. So a lot of the times people are like, oh, we really want this, and you could throw something together, I'm sure, and get it to work right, but they're really taking the time to research it, and you've seen that. I believe it was Andrew mentioned earlier with the fact that students own the assignments versus, like Conductor Puss, the teachers own the assignment. That was a calculated decision. A lot of decisions like that, who's really in control, who's the owner, who's an editor. A lot of those things have to be calculated, and those decisions have to be made. So that's something I know they're thinking about heavily and looking into. On one of the big ones I know right now they're looking at is having co-teachers, teaching assistants, things of that nature available for future the classroom. Another thing I was curious, especially with the one-to-one iPad situation, is, I mean, they haven't announced anything to do with apps, but if one day they make an app, which to me seems like at least like a logical progression, again, cannot comment on whether they are developing an app or not, but I would assume based upon that every single Google product has an app. An app probably one day will come to Classroom. What would you imagine the workflow is going to look like for that? What would you want to see if you had an iPad app? Because right now Classroom is web only, so I mean you kind of have to do all your doc editings and the docs apps and then go to the web to turn it in. What kind of things would you want to see if there was an app for iPads, your Android tablets, things of that nature?
Yeah, that would be definitely fantastic, because I know right now what's great about Classroom that we love is everything's right there. So we are progressing more towards a bring your own device. Some students already bring their own device, so I know I'm working off a laptop. And so for me, I'm able to work right there. And what I love about that, the ability that Classroom lets me to do everything right there, is if my teacher's not here. They can post the assignments, they can post notes, they can leave us reminders, they can upload slideshows. I know Ms. Sheffer, she can't be here all the time because of all of the ways that she's integrating technology throughout the community. So when she's not here, she uploads assignments for us, she leaves us notes, she's able to check in on what we're doing, and she's there, and we have all of this access to what we should be doing, what we are doing, and what we have done all in one spot. And that's just with one class. And an even better part of Classroom is the fact that you have all your classes right here. So I can just click out of my help desk Classroom feed, and then I have all my other classes in one spot. Everything is all together, which is perfect because it's packaging it all. And so with the iPad, like you just said, how you have to go to you have to edit in Docs and then turn it in. I think that creating a Classroom app that you could edit documents right there in the app would just further how greatly Classroom manages to put everything in one spot and make it so easy for students to figure out what they're supposed to be doing, do it, and then pass it in for the teacher, and then for the teacher to evaluate it all in one spot. So basically everything, every function of the
They want everything.
Besides the co-teaching, Ziggy, I will tell you, I hear that a lot. People want co-teaching abilities. I hear it in my building, in other buildings throughout the district, on Google+. I hear it everywhere. I think I saw that there's now the ability to add multiple files per assignment that was just rolled out, and I shared that, and I commented, and I said hopefully co-teaching is next, because I've just been hearing that over and over again. That's what people want. The other thing, that when your team came to Burlington and spoke with students, the number one thing the students were saying is there a Classroom app for the iPad? That's what they wanted. So I know that they would use it. I think every one-to-one iPad school would, just so that switching back and forth. The students are going back and forth a lot between the desktop version of Docs on their iPads and then switching back into the Docs app, depending on the task that they're asked to complete. And so my help desk students and I have been going into classrooms and assisting, showing teachers, why the students can't see their comments, and right, we have to switch out of the Docs app and you have to go into the desktop version. So that going back and forth, I kind of agree with what Allison was saying. I think we are preparing kids for the real world, the expectations of, being competent and with multiple tools and devices and flexible, but at the same time, I think, they just want to get their work done and be as efficient as possible with their assignments, and they're committed to their academics. So having the app would be great. The workaround for quickly accessing Classroom, we have suggested that they bookmark it on their home screen, and I've done that on my own device, my own iPad. So we would love that. Please, Google, bring that to us.
You guys know about you guys know about Chromebooks, right?
Yeah, what are those?
I'm just messing with you. Just messing with you. No buyer's remorse. Don't worry about it. No buyer's remorse.
I know.
Right.
There was somebody who said if you one-to-one iPad in your Google Apps, you should be punched in the face. I forget who said that, but
it wasn't me.
No, but it's working. The kids.
Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, it was posted somewhere. But we are a Google Apps school, so as far as what should go on your iPad, I advocate for the GAF suite of apps, and you're good to go. I mean, like I said, one or two of those foundational, iMovie, Explain Everything, Book Creator, and then all your GAF apps, and that's it. You don't need more than that. You don't need 4 apps.
Jen, to be fair, and I called you Jen, you wouldn't be so gung-ho about trying to figure all this out, and I know that you wouldn't choose iPad as your one-to-one if you were building. We've had this talk, but what's nice about having Jen in a one-to-one iPad school, being a GAF trainer, is that she can really offer perspective on how to use the tool, which whenever people come into my sessions and they're like, well, how do I do it on an iPad? And I'm like, just get a Chromebook.
No. I show them YouTube Capture, and then I show them the magic of YouTube Capture, and then, you know, getting into the multimedia creation, and then that, you know, I get a few people converted.
Well, that's why Classroom is so great, is because Classroom, the thing that makes it so amazing is everything's all right there.
It's convenient.
And so, exactly, it's convenient because everything's packaged together nicely. So if it could be packaged together on the iPad as well, that would make it even better.
Also, I feel like, what's the difference of not having a Classroom app? So you're on your Google Docs app, you know, for one tab, and then the next tab you're on, like, Safari or Google Chrome, and you're switching off between the two. It'd be the same thing as having a teacher having a blog and having her PDF on that blog or something, and then on Google Docs we just turn it in. You're still switching between two things, so I feel like if we actually did have a Google Classroom app, it would make things even more convenient than they already are.
And as far as the device goes, we chose I know that Burlington, they made the decision to be Apple and iPad because that was the device that they believed had, and I agree, it is the best content and consumption device. I don't want them to necessarily be consuming. I want them to be creating with that device. That's really what it's designed to do. So, you know, I think that's what I'm trying to advocate for, is to take this amazing creation device and use it for what it was intended to be used for. I know Jaimin is really interested in music. It can be a musical instrument. It can, they can write with it. They can. Timmy's blog, he's been doing all kinds of great things. And then that workflow is with Classroom. To me and to many teachers, that has been the best method, and that's why we're excited about it.
I want to come in at this point and talk about our situation. So my school has a 100 meg line coming in and pretty shockingly bad Wi-Fi. So we're about 5 years off any one-to-one kind of program being in our school. So we're using Classroom reasonably extensively without any access to devices. So just to put a bit of sort of balance on it from our point of view, if we had devices, that would be a delight. But we don't. So it's quite interesting that it's still a very usable tool, even when the students don't have devices in front of them. However, saying that, my 16-year-olds are getting their phones out in my lesson, and I'm looking at thinking, are they playing games again? And they're not. They're on Classroom on their browser, looking at the link to the answers to the assignment or things like that. So they're chomping at the bit to be able to access it everywhere, anywhere. But it does work without them as well.
I just used Classroom from my iPhone, and I was pleasantly surprised at, I didn't think it would function well at all from my phone, and it did. I was able to, click on the submissions and view things and turn it back in, and that was frankly surprising. So I would love to see that improve on a laptop, whether it's Mac, PC, Chromebook. It's lightning fast, and it's another reason why I love it as a teacher.
I think compatibility between devices is something that win. A lot of people like Ms. Chef, they're just all about iPads, and then Google is just their own thing. They have Android, and with Android devices, a lot of Google things work very fast. And when it comes to making their applications just user-friendly for everyone, it just wins people over. It just shows you that they actually care about other people's interests and what they use on a daily basis. Keep in mind.
Exactly, and Ben, you were just saying your students would pull their phones out, and you were saying, oh, are they playing games again? And no, they're on Classroom. The thing that's so awesome about Classroom is the way it's structured and organized, that the debate we were having earlier, the students they feel as though, and they may have more power because they own the documents, they control when they turn it in, and this power becomes exciting to them. So distractions are always going to exist, and if we can redirect them to an educational thing where instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna pay attention to a game now, they're like, oh, well, I wanna go onto Classroom. I want to do something where instead of when they're in your class, they're like, oh, I need to play a game. They're like, oh, I want to complete my work because it's fun for them, because it's changing the way that the game of education is essentially played.
Yeah, I caught a student on her phone yesterday. I said, what are you doing on your phone? She had her iPad up, and she had TweetDeck. She was preparing for a live Twitter chat. And then I said, what are you doing on your phone? And she had the Google Doc up on her phone. And she said, I'm looking at the questions on the doc. And I said, oh, okay, never mind. So,
yeah, same thing with like, sorry, after you.
No, I was just going to say, like Jaimin is saying, wouldn't it be great if devices truly didn't matter? You know, that's kind of how we need to look at it. How we would, you know, it doesn't matter what device. That's frankly why I love Google, because it really, at this point, it really doesn't matter what device I'm on. I can access it.
Yeah, they sell the web. They don't sell the devices.
Exactly.
The devices are incidental.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great business model. I mean, that's what I think is most fascinating. Whenever I think about the fact that all this stuff is free, it's really fascinating, right? To live in a time where a company like this can essentially sell relationships between people, and at the same time also offer productivity tools that are superior to anything we've seen on the client-side computing, where you don't even have to pay for them. You know, this combination of forces that is the internet is really shaking things up, and I mean, that's ultimately what I find most exciting about all of this is that any of it even exists. It's just amazing.
Allison, we do have the students do have to get going.
Yes, actually, I know we're getting to the end of the broadcast. I wanted to thank everyone for being on. I wanted to give Ziggy a chance to answer this question, if he could. I have somebody, Scott Waldo, in the Q&A asking, if I create a class this year and create assignments, what happens next year when the new students join the class? Will all of the existing assignments be assigned to them? I think the question is, what's the best approach going year to year? Do you have one?
I think at this point, the Classroom team is enhancing their development efforts based upon timelines. So I think the best suggestion I would be at this point is, I don't know of anything official at this point, but I would assume that you'll hear more details about how to transition classes closer to the end of the school year. That if something were, I would imagine that something like development efforts are based upon timelines of when schools are going in and out and such. So at this point, copying classrooms, things of that nature don't exist yet. So if you did give people access to a class, just like if you added a student late into the term, you would be able to see previous assignments. So I think what we're looking at now is basically looking for what Google's response is, what is the workflow going to be from year to year, which hasn't been up for a whole year yet, so we don't know yet. So that's a question mark.
That's fair.
That's my crossing my fingers. My hope is that I'll get a fun email saying, okay, here's how it's going to work for next year. Either whether that's at the end of the school year, whether that's close to the beginning of the school year or something. I don't know. We'll find out. Right. I don't know.
Yep. No, it's good. It's good answer.
You need a smart answer.
We'll wait and see. And in the meantime, is it fair to say that you just create a new class each year?
I mean, that would be the unfortunate workflow, but I imagine hopefully that something would be better. I mean, we're also looking at, you know, if you did that, all the assignments would show up at once and they would all be based upon the old due date. So then you're looking at, well, if we can schedule posts, that would be better. So I mean, this goes on to a laundry list of features that weren't implemented this year yet because the product's new, that hopefully like a combination of these things come out later would make everything smoother. So yeah, I don't have a perfect answer now, but if we find them out, you know, you can follow me on Google Plus and all that stuff, and I'll let you know when I find out and when it becomes available.
All right. Yes, definitely.
Ziggy, you're welcome.
Everybody, follow Ziggy.
Ziggy, you can come to Burlington again, or send members of your team, or you can come and visit us if you want feedback from the students or the teachers.
I'm not one of the Googlers. I'm just a forum volunteer, but I'll definitely let the product manager I work with know that you're interested in having another site visit. So
I'd also like to know how we go about getting Andrew on the Classroom team. Do you have an in on that? I'd like to see some more collaboration.
They can't afford me. There's no way they can afford me.
All right. Well, nix that. I'll just keep building the bridge.
Appreciate that.
You're obviously all welcome over in the UK at any point as well. Bring your raincoats though.
Okay. Yeah, I spent a decent part of my childhood in London, so I need to get back for sure.
You are definitely welcome.
All right. See you soon.
Well, Jennifer, thanks a lot. And guys, you know, from coming up from Burlington, the students too, and all of your input, we really appreciate having you. We love having you, in fact, and I hope we get to have this type of chat again sometime. Maybe I want to visit your help desk and get a tour, so I'll have to take a ride down soon.
This was their first hangout, and well, Timmy and Jimon's first hangout. I think they're pretty impressed.
Definitely.
All right.
All right.
Do it again soon. All right. Thanks a lot. I have a few things. You can, Ben, thank you very much for coming, and Ziggy as well. I'm not closing out the Hangout right now. In fact, I have an announcement, a couple of things. One, no happy news to share. A good friend to us, and I think many of you know him, Lee Webster. He is the king of the demo slams. He offers the online demo slams. He also created a Google Apps community that has, I think, now 80,000 members. Well, unfortunately, Lee's been diagnosed with cancer, and I'd like to take an opportunity with the Hangout on Air to let y'all know, if you're listening or watching in the feed on both the Hangout page and on the event page, we have a link for funding program for Lee. He's living in Bangkok. The chemo is going to be quite extensive and aggressive, and it's not being covered by insurance. So we're just asking for all of fellow Googlers, if you can, take a look at that fund and maybe add to it. And if you can't, if you could just send him your thoughts, we would all appreciate it. He's greatly loved in our community. I'm going to do a screen share. Would somebody just confirm that indeed you can see my screen?
Oh, I'm getting the info loop.
Better? Okay. So the good thing that I want to share with you is that I have produced, I know that some of you might have come today because you thought you might get a Google Classroom how-to, and we didn't do that. We chatted a lot and even went down the rabbit hole with Andrew with Puss, which is awesome. But I did develop a course with AppsEvents. It's an online course. We're developing more. It's Google Classroom 101. And I have a 100% discount code for you. So if you're watching and you'd like to go through a tutorial step by step, just use AppsClass14 as your discount code, and you can go ahead and log in and take the course for free. I produced it close to when the new updates came out in the fall, but we'll be reproducing a whole new series with all the new things I've learned about Google Classroom, and as well as all the new developments. So enjoy that course on us as well. Let's see, and I'm actually broadcasting live from the Krista McCullough Conference in New Hampshire today, and I will be doing a whole a session on Google Classroom, covering some of the cool things you can do. I do have some resources here, nothing too extensive because my sessions are generally hands-on, but I'm hoping to get to a point in the session toward the end where I feature the Puss add-on, and I have links here where you can find the Puss add-on, how to use it, using Puss in the classroom, and even a link to Andrew's Site Maestro, which I love. You get to push out sites templates to your students and have the permissions and sharing all set up for you. So that's located at www.treasuretrovegaf.com. And I think of Google as a treasure trove of opportunity, and so that's thus the name, treasuretrovegaffey.com. And if you click on the Classroom link here, Google Classroom, it has the apps class code there listed. You feel free to share. It's fine. It's an open discount code, and hopefully you can find some resources that are helpful for you. Does anyone else have anything they want to share before we go?
Thanks for the chat. It was fun.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
thank you.
wonderful holiday.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks very much. Bye, Ben. We'll meet
Thank you.
again
Cheers.
soon. Cheers. Bye-bye. And that concludes today's Hangout on Google Classroom. We went over a little bit, but there was a lot of information shared. It was really great to have Jen here with her students, and Andrew Stillman, who is such a gem and resource in our community. If you have any questions, you can post them in the feed on either the event page or the Hangout page, and you're always welcome to email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, AllisonMalika@gmail.com, or you can just send me a chat through Twitter or Google+. If I don't know the answer, I will find somebody who can answer it for you. So thanks again, and enjoy Classroom. Have a great day. Bye-bye.